Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond. Kizito. On Spectrum, tonight, the Monday focus, we look at the Kenyan election and the healthcare system in Uganda. Counting of votes continues in Kenya as results of the elections are eagerly awaited across the East African community. At least 15 people, including 5 policemen, have been killed in Mombasa as Kenyans stand up in large numbers than ever before to cast their ballots in a tight race between, essentially a two-horse race, between Raila Odinga, current Prime Minister, and Uhuru Kenyatta, former Finance Minister. A group of 200 secessionists, armed with guns, machetes, and bows and arrows, set a trap for police in the pre-dawn hours, killing 5 officers in Mombasa. A few challenges have been reported, including failure of the biometric system that has forced the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to revert to the manual register in some areas. Long queues have been reported in different parts, even after polling, which started at 6 o'clock in the morning, closed at 5 o'clock in the evening. The official preliminary results show a tight race between Kenyatta and Odinga. So we'll be looking at that election this evening. We'll also look at the impact of public sector corruption and delivery of health services. The Black Monday Crusade today ran under the theme "Enough is Enough, Our Health is Lost to Theft." It was designed to highlight the theft of funds that would have been invested in the health sector. According to the newsletter, which was issued in the Daily Monitor newspaper today, some 600 billion shillings was lost through the Global Fund scandal and 239 billion shillings lost through the office of the Prime Minister and the Public Service scandal. The Crusaders say these funds would be useful in dealing with the troubles the Ugandan health sector faces today, and that those behind the theft must be forced to pay. So we'll ask the question, is this enough to deal with the challenges that the Ugandan health sector faces? Who are our guests tonight? Honorable Bettie, Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance. You're most welcome, Honorable Bettie Kamya.
Good evening, listeners. Edmond, thank you for hosting us every Monday, and fellow panelists.
We're also joined by Mr. Leonard Okello, Executive Director of the Uhuru Institute, no connection with a Kenyan politician, and also Black Monday Crusader. You're most welcome, Mr. Leonard Okello.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
We also expect to be joined by Mr. Kintu, Nyago, Deputy Head of Mission at the Ugandan Embassy in New York, the Ugandan Mission in New York. We expect him to join us shortly. Honorable Bettie, what's your latest information on the elections in Kenya?
Actually, I have been very busy today. I had streams of people, in the office, and today wasn't a day that I was watching the elections on a minute by minute. But what I've heard, the latest, is that Uhuru is leading fairly significantly in the central province, and but then, as we all know, that's just his key,
his hometown,
his key constituency. So it's not surprising. What would be surprising was if he was not leading in that constituency. So I think it's too early to be saying who, since they've been running so tightly. Right. It's too early to be making.
Right, and like say preliminary results, 56% for Uhuru Kenyatta at the moment against Raila Odinga's 40-something %. But that's only from 2% of the election, which is statistically insignificant, but also from the central region, which would back Kenyatta. You've looked at some of these undercurrents. Would you say it's been a free and fair election?
I really think that Kenya ought to be congratulated for the manner in which the elections have been held or prepared. We have always said here in Uganda that rigging of elections starts many years, a couple of years before, or is always ongoing in Uganda through the incumbency, the advantages of the incumbency, who is the president who is an incumbent, who has been a candidate in the last 3 or 4 elections, and who is holds the advantages of giving jobs, of holding the treasury key, of all those things. But so it's the environment is not very is slightly different from Kenya. One, because the incumbent is not standing, and all the people that are standing are new. None of them is an incumbent. Plus, they all have almost the same advantages. They are all in government and have all held very powerful positions in.
Have been for some of them. Have been. Kenyatta is no longer.
Yeah, have held powerful positions. They are almost childhood contemporaries who have a similar history, and so they're not new, very new people on the scene.
Right.
So starting from that background, it sets a fairly similar ground for all of them.
Right.
For at least the two that we're talking about, the leading candidates, and then the preparations right from the time of the referendum in 2010, when they all supported the Constitution. And then there are some significant implementations of the Constitution, the election or the appointment or the recruitment of an independent electoral commission, not appointed by any of the contending candidates and not appointed by the president, who could have influenced the elections. Then, of course, you have a chief of police, the IGP, who was elected or recruited through.
He was interviewed like another job.
He was recruited through an open, competitive process. Then you have the judiciary, which was also recruited through an open, competitive process. Those are basically the institutions that are very active.
Okay, we'll talk about this. Yeah. Of course, we know the in the end they got a chief justice who has an earring in one ear, but that's probably another matter altogether. The first some people have said is basically about between two men, a fight before we move forward, a fight of two dynastic families. Raila Odinga, his father was Ojinga Odinga, never made it to the presidency. Uhuru Kenyatta, he was vice president. Kenyatta, his father is the founding president. Picked out of obscurity by Daniel Arap Moi about 10 years ago to contest elections. Performed dismally, now he's performing strongly now. Who do you think is going to win?
It's very, very tight. I think I wouldn't want to bet on who is going to win, because first of all, both gentlemen are equally, in terms of image and, as I said, history and any of them. I think whoever wins of the two, Kenya should be happy, first of all. Maybe Odinga has more seniority in terms of experience and age. Odinga is
60 versus 51,
and Kenyatta is 51. So Kenyatta is about 16 years younger. But I think it's very tight.
It's very tight. Leonard, give us your own analysis. What have you seen in the election, and do we have lessons from there?
I think really Kenya is going through a very interesting experience, because I was in Kenya in 2007 when it blew up, and a very interesting experience there. But really, to say one, I think the fact that there is no incumbent president contesting is played a lot into how the Kenyans will see the turn-up is. So I think the excitement, and if there's a lesson for me, for Uganda, is when do we have a presidential election when President Museveni is not contesting, and there is a complete level field, one or two people contesting. Secondly, the infrastructure for organizing elections have really been outside the control of the presidency, and like my sister Betty saying, an electoral commission elected appointed through a process which is so public and so open, so transparent. They had even moved from the 2002 when different parties appointed commissioners into this. Really, these people won it out of showing that they can do the job and winning the interviews, which was very good through merit. So I'm having hope now about who wins or who doesn't win. If there's money, and probably Uhuru could take it, because if you see the amount of money he's putting in,
look at some brief perspective from one side.
Yeah,
Leonard had 100 double cabin vehicles. Uhuru Kenyatta had 1,000.
Yeah, because when I'm talking about wealth, if you're talking about personal wealth and the wealth of the people who are likely to support, make contributions, Uhuru would probably be ahead of anybody in Kenya, because he's a family that owns Kenya. So it's a rich family, very, very thinking rich family, which is in all sectors of the economy, especially agriculture. Only dairy is like over 70% really theirs, you know. And in the banks, in the construction industry, Gatundu district is almost, the entire district is actually land.
That was Kenyatta's.
Yes,
Kenyatta's.
Exactly. That's the kind of expression. They are very, very rich family. So if it is really wealth, then if wealth, the one which we have the logistics and the infrastructure to organize your campaign, and it may pay off, that could be. But there are many that are going to play off. The other thing which I think we need to watch, which I think CORD needed to have learned from 2007, which I think they didn't learn very much, in my view, is that I think Jubilee did a much better job in mobilizing potential voters to go and register. And that is what may tilt the balance for Uhuru. If those who registered in Central Province and in the Rift Valley, if let's say they get about 90% turnout, that could give a real tilt, a serious tilt for Uhuru, frankly speaking. Well, and that is one job they did very well. And I think for me, for another lesson for Ugandan political parties, both in government and opposition, is really our ability to mobilize all the supporter base, even beyond, to actually go and register and then vote. Because that's really, you see that major turnout. It's not just because people are getting excited. There was very good preparation for voting. And the third thing which I think Ugandans will learn from is the amount of civic education by civil society in Kenya has been amazing. Has been amazing. What I would like though to watch, which is this so-called ICC context. If Uhuru won election, what can the world audience talk about ICC? What does it mean?
Let's talk about the ICC the perspective of that.
What I wonder what this person will look like when he was in one of those interviews on the campaign speeches. He said that he will rule from. He will use Skype and
with headphones on. Share cabinet meetings from behind.
Behind bars, but I don't know how that will work. But that's a unique reality. But it's difficult to imagine that if he was sworn in tomorrow as Kenyan president, that the Kenyan system would then hand him over if the ICC indicted him the following day to go to
who would hand him over? He would be president.
That's the thing. That's the thing. He would be president, and that
might as well say go.
Now the implication for that for Kenya, foreign relations, Kenya's economic situation, and the implication for that in East Africa is something to watch about. And of course, and yet we also have difficult situations in Somalia, Sudan, whatever, which is a very unique complexity. And at the moment, Kenya is providing a very good base for engagements of the world into dealing with the Somalia crisis. So there is a lot of complexities to deal with here.
Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we're looking at the Monday focus. We look at the Kenyan election and the healthcare system in Uganda. Our guests, Honorable Bettie Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance, and Mr. Leonard Okello, Executive Director of the Uhuru Institute, also Black Monday Crusader. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion at some stage. Honorable Bettie Kamya, what does it tell us about Kenyans? They're voting massively to a certain extent for Uhuru Kenyatta. They backed him through the campaigns, yet he has the ICC indictment hanging over his head together with his running mate. What does that tell us about the Kenyan people, even Africans in general?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a statement. It's a very big statement because on my personal view. Well, before I come to my personal view,
yes.
But the people that are supporting Raila are doing so deliberately, irrespective of what might come out of the ICC.
Who are supporting Raila or Uhuru Kenyatta?
No, Uhuru. People that are supporting Uhuru are doing so deliberately, irrespective of what the implications of the ICC factor, which of course could mean a lot of tribalism at play, because you have two key tribes, the Kikuyus and the Kalenjin,
yeah.
And they don't care what happens. They're just going to support this because they are owning this campaign. The they own the Uhuru Ruto campaign, and that goes a lot to say. It's very much like the people here, the Bahororo and the Teso and Uganda and the Muslims and Banyankore, who will, irrespective of Black Monday and our cry for against corruption, will just go and support their own because I think they are duty bound or ethnic bound to support their own.
And I think also that ethnicity issue doesn't come only because people are ethnic. It's just because when it comes to chopping the resources, the ethnic factor tends to come in the history.
Right.
I mean,
So do you think that
everybody wants to retreat to protect their own in the hope that if our own is there, I get some bit of it. You know, the Nigerians we even have to set what they call the Federal Character Commission, which is supposed to see the balance, the ethnic balance, so that the ethnic balance can keep not only some level of stability and hope that everybody is in, but to make everybody believe our son or our daughter is inside there also. You know,
but Leonard, do you think it's because a person who traveled from Rukonjiri in Muhororo, or from Teso, or from wherever, or the Muslims who are marching on the streets, or let's talk about, since we're talking about ethnicity, the person who traveled from Rukonjiri to come and support Dr. Besige during his days, or to come and support Mbabazi or Jim, Muhwezi, in spite of the charges against him, I don't think they were looking at what they might get out of it, and they will go back and they're still as poor as they were. They're not in the class and the category of elite who get these things.
You know, Betty, it is actually the elite who use this tribal angle to kind of mass support. But interestingly, this extended family culture that we have here, the social infrastructure we use, social capital we use, it tends to be used either directly or in an imaginary way. When I was working internationally, my little brothers and sisters worked very hard because Leonard is out there. This imaginary Bettie is out there, they get energized, they want to identify with you, and they work very hard. And that actually happens.
Listeners, have just been joined by our third guest, Mr. Nyago, Deputy Head of the Uganda Mission in New York. You're most welcome, Mr. Nyago.
Thank you, brother.
Do you think, give us your overview of the Kenyan election. 15 people were killed in Mombasa today, some of them policemen. Do you think there's going to be violence? Is that a precursor to violence?
I hope not. I think Kenyans have tried hard to avoid what occurred last time. I hope that is not, because Kenya is a big country. Some of the people who died, I think, died near Garissa. Could have been terrorist attacks. It's very unfortunate that people died. But regarding the ethnic factor, I think Kenya is a bit unique. I mean, ethnicity plays a very big role in Africa, but I think Kenya is a bit unique because much of this ethnicity possibly is traced in the way in which the first government of Kenya, Uhuru's father, behaved. I think he was very ethnic. I mean, on that tribal. Oh yes, very the English language. Negative ethnicity in terms of concentrating much of the power amongst the Gikuyu. It's not by accident that they are extremely wealthy. The difference is that he maintained a stable country and also enabled to a large extent the accumulation of private property and people being able to accumulate wealth. I mean, he did not say nationalize and so forth. But much of that, there was a lot of concentration, say in terms of land. Who owns land in Kenya, for example? If one carries a census, and then who owns property? And that was, that played a very... Now others who emerged tried to emulate what he did. And that plays a very key factor. And indeed, it's true that
affirmative action in favor of other tribes.
Well, that starting point that led to a lot of over-concentration of resources into one ethnic group had a very strong very strong imprint on the Kenyan body fabric. And to make it worse, I mean, they are quite a central group. The people who constituted Mzee Kenyatta's group, they are very central in terms of numbers and also central in terms of historical advantages, education, and so forth. So that makes it. They are quite formidable. Now, many other people, like say those who came after Mzee Kenyatta, like the Kalenjins, also attempted to do that.
Affirmative action.
Well, I won't call it that, but
I want to balance things out.
But so I mean, that's a factor. And then also, power in Kenya has been used to also accumulate wealth. At least if you have to look at Moi and Kenyatta, and that makes it very explosive. But I guess the current constitution, which they have, is intended to mitigate much of that.
Was the poll well
The
organized?
thing about the current constitution is actually, in my view, shifted the struggles over resources from the center to the counties.
the regions.
Okay.
Say it.
47 counties.
Say the word.
Federalism.
Federalism.
The counties has moved the
Majimbo.
They moved it to the counties.
Is that something we should have?
What's happening is that if you see the Jubilee Alliance is actually an attempt for Rift Valley and Central to heal the 2007 crisis, because the biggest displacement took place in Rift Valley. A lot of people displaced were actually Kikuyu, Central Province people, and if you can have Uhuru and Ruto work together, you can then go and start renegotiating the land mess that took place at that time.
No, but I don't think, you know what happened, how Uhuru and Ruto,
They were on opposing sides at that time.
they were on opposing
But they're
sides.
in the same trouble now.
And because they are ganging, they started ganging against Raila, whom they suspect to have handed them over to ICC, had a hand in their being
Indicted.
Even though I think that is actually a political strategy for survival, because I was in Nairobi when Uhuru and Ruto many times on TV said, "Don't be vague, go to Hague." I was there and I was saying, do these people realize the implication of Hague? At that time, none of them thought their names were there. Because this thing Ocampo was holding it, nobody knew what his name was in. Even Kibaki and Raila were not sure whether their names were in. And the people who shouted, "Don't be vague," and of course in the media that speculation was there. And then when their names came, and Raila's name, Kibaki's name did not come and say, "But everybody was fighting for you. You should have been the ones to go to the Hague."
Yeah.
And then when they realized elections and the next step, the survival strategy is, okay, we have been, Raila sold us out because he wanted us out. I think that was just a strategy for survival, really.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. We'll be back to stay tuned.
Uganda Communications Commission is currently conducting nationwide mandatory SIM card registration. Register your SIM card in a few easy steps. Visit your telecom operator's customer care center or any other designated registration center and provide your phone number, a copy of a valid ID or any other valid ID with accompanying photograph such as a passport, driver's permit, voter's card, or a letter from your LC. Information on your physical address or residence will also be required. SIM card registration protects mobile phone users from incidences of fraud, incitement, terrorism, and hate messages, among others. Please note that SIM card registration is mandatory, and those who fail to register risk having their SIM cards deactivated. All information shall remain confidential. Let's make communication safe. Register your SIM card today.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pay for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414 340077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?
There are those who sit around waiting for things to happen. But then there are those who make things happen. Take a closer look. While some people follow trends, there are those who set them. While many people dream of what could be, there are those who make their dreams a reality. While some people make a name for themselves, there are those who also leave a legacy. These people have a unique drive that enables them to make things happen. And they all choose a beer that has a unique ingredient, crystal malt, releasing the richer, full flavor that makes Nile Gold Uganda's true premium lager. Nile Gold, beyond the ordinary.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. The Monday focus. We've just been looking at the Kenyan elections, and now we turn to the healthcare system in Uganda. Our guests tonight, Honorable Bettie, Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance, Mr. Leonard, Okello, Executive Director of the Uhuru Institute, and the Black Monday Crusader. Mr. Kintu, Deputy Head of the Ugandan Mission. In New York, you will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Leonard Okello, talk to us about the Black Monday movement.
The Black Monday movement is a citizen social movement, really, which is mobilizing, educating, doing public education on the theft of money in public offices, or we want to call it corruption in the country. And this time round, we focused a lot on health this time round, and of course we also had other stories which we also did a celebration of our relationship with the police since we started this journey, with one of the articles in it, which shares what the experience we have had. But the most important thing is that really the health sector is a limping sector. And I think it's a sector that has a lot of potential. When you look at Vision 2040, one of the things is which is big in it is the tourism sector would have grown big, and it would be one. And I think health tourism would be big business actually if our sector was working very well. At the moment, I think everything needs to be done to help the health sector. And if you see the amount of money that have got lost, maybe in the 2006 Global Fund, the Government Fund, whatever, and any resources that got lost in government or in the health sector itself, if those monies were not lost and we transform them into revamping the health sector, you could make a big difference. That's the message to you.
And what would you like the government to do right now? They're already fighting corruption. Some people are in jail.
Okay.
They hate the vice so much.
I like to hear that, but I wish we had a copy with you. Somebody got it from us reading, but you know, when you lose 600 billion
shillings
in global fund, and then you send here for 10 million, then you ask yourself, what happened to the 690?
Go on.
What
does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, those are the questions. You chair goes, is it 10 million shillings?
Yes.
And you ask him, so what?
Somebody was saying to me, I'm a soldier. He said that this is the most lethal, weapon because it can be hidden. It's bigger than worse than the big gun. So those pistols, the chairs should be removed. Probably.
Okay, but I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but it means there's still a lot of people who must have got a good time with that 600 billion that did not.
So what's your reading? What's your reading?
That we need to do much more. We're not doing enough.
What should government do?
I think we need both political and the legal leadership to really do their job, the police to do their job very well, the judges to do their job very well. But I think corruption in this country is a leadership challenge that this country must be ready to face up to.
What do you mean?
And the president, the cabinet, the members of parliament, the political leaders, and the technical leaders in every part of government in this country must make it a responsibility. And of course it comes down to every citizen. We must all reject corruption, and Edmond put on black next Monday as part of your...
I am putting on black shoes already.
Thank you. So that's really my view, and that's all our view. Really.
Some people think we should fight it from the roots, LC1 levels. Those terms, they say.
Well, they're also leaders. When I say it's a leadership challenge, I mean it, because even the LC1 leader is a leader in this area, and if he doesn't fight corruption at that level or provide practical leadership and show that he's really doing something against corruption, then the president cannot go to every LC1 office.
Bettie, what are your thoughts on corruption in the Uganda Federal Alliance? Is it something that bothers you, or you think it will go away one day?
No, of course it bothers me, like it bothers everybody. But my view is that corruption is more of a consequence than the problem. And therefore, if you want to deal with corruption, I think you've got to go deeper than just address corruption as it is. Corruption, human rights abuse, electoral malpractices, patronage, all the vices that we cry about in this country. In our view, they are actually consequences, and you need to go beyond them to the problem. And the problem, you might say, is a system that chokes all the institutions, a system that cannot allow institutions to work because of the larger-than-life image of one person. So, Leonard, while we must... we are fed up and we are dealing with corruption. We need to go beyond that, actually, and realize that it is a consequence, and we must dig deeper and find out the problem and its cause.
What's the problem?
In my opinion,
so what's the cause?
I have already said the problem is this one-man show.
Oh.
The one-man show that creates patronage, and then that patronage leads to
What do you mean one-man show? Only the IGG prosecuting? You want other people to prosecute as well? What do you mean by one-man show?
One-man show, I mean...
One-woman show.
The one-man show, I mean that the office of the president or the presidency or the president is the one who almost has authority to do everything in this country, particularly to appoint the entire state and government. When you fuse, the problem actually begins with our constitution. Our constitution cannot promote the key tenet of democratic order, which is separation of powers and independence of the judiciary, of the legislature, and of the executive. Now, the three are under the actually the executive, the judiciary. First of all, the executive appoints the entire judiciary, and you cannot talk about separation of powers when one arm appoints the entire arm. And the executive also appoints 20% direct of the legislature. So there's no way you can talk about separation of power when 20% of the legislature are directly appointed by the executive, and the other 60% are on standby, hoping to be noticed and appointed or bailed out when they need. Bailed out when they need support
to pay lawyers
or to do things like that. So really, when it starts from there, you cannot expect effective oversight service when the person you are supposed to perform the function of oversight is the one who has appointed 20% and can appoint the rest of you. So we need to overhaul the constitution and redesign the constitution so that we provide.
We take out powers from the president.
Reduce the powers of
the
president, like they've done in Kenya. I think Kenya are on a very good track.
Let's hear from Mr. Chiri. He's seething with anger. He really wants to talk about against corruption. He's so angry at corruption. Let's hear him out.
No, I'm actually...
He's not that angry about corruption.
No, I'm in a very jovial mood. Not about corruption, but I'm having a nice discussion, and I'm appreciating the points being raised by my colleagues. But that said, I'll repeat again, Edmond and listeners, that we should be proud of our constitution. Our constitution is one of the best in the world.
Oh, no, please.
Our constitution is one of the best in the world. For sure, it's not perfect, but then show me a perfect constitution in this world.
Kenya is better.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
You don't think the election is better?
Election justice? No. What I'm saying is the constitution. The constitution of Uganda is one of the best liberal documents ever produced by mankind since creation. Now, that said, on the issue of corruption, on many of the things that the Constitution has, they are not an innovation of the Ugandans, of the framers of our Constitution. In all countries with an executive authority, it is the executive authority that appoints the judiciary and many of these other organs. Say the person who heads the Home Guard in America, or the National Guard in America, or who heads is the president who appoints the people in the Supreme Court in America, and so forth and so forth. Now that's all the ambassadors. Now that said, Obama and so forth. That said, on the issue of corruption, it's a problem. And nobody's happy about corruption. But one thing that makes me happy is that the enabling environment to fight corruption is there. And this constitution of ours is the one that is enabling us to fight corruption, plus the political will. Because look, many of the people who have been affected, who have been arrested, they are not small, they are not taxi touts or, people, border riders, people like Mike Mukura.
Those are big boys.
NRM chairman, vice chairman of all region. Yes,
he's in jail.
A SEC member. The SEC is the president. SEC is the holy of the holies.
Who wants to be president?
The inner cabinet.
Yes.
The holy of the holies is the SEC.
He even wants to be president.
Whatever. That's his democratic right. But the point is, people who are being affected They are very senior people. And that shows you...
tags on them.
Right, but that shows you that the political will exists.
And then it's very angry against about corruption.
I won't talk about the but the point I'm trying to make is that there is a political will and there's a good constitution and the enabling environment to fight corruption. And the political will environment is also enabling very creative people like, for example, my brother Leonard Okello
to publish the
every moment to publish.
You are for that bishop.
You're just above the law. People are going to call us a bit above the law. You know, that's what the whole thing is about. We should not just arrest. We should not just arrest chicken thieves or the
because corruption is so serious. It's so serious in this country that even the bishops should stand up and do something about it. And I'm so excited that Bishop Zaka accepts to do it. But you know what? Both Bettie and
as soon as the referendum there was a strike.
You know, wait. Both these two people have made my job easy. One bit clearly states that the most powerful person in this country is the President of the Republic.
It can't be you.
It can, of course. And he said the Constitution makes him so powerful. And that's exactly what I'm saying. He is the one feeding us. Because if he could use his power to fight corruption seriously, it would be different. But let me tell you, you know, when the generals were ruling South Korea, they were equally very powerful, and they were generals.
Now
they needed corruption and moved that country to a different scale.
They did corruption.
They did it.
What should we do?
It was as bad as a vice president committing suicide.
What should we do?
You know, when his name came up in corruption, because just would imagine facing his boss and facing the country out there. That's how serious they had made corruption become satisfied. The challenge with corruption in this country is that is impunity.
What do you mean?
You get away with it.
How? We
don't get away with it. Because the locking up people, you lock little chair and little Mokula.
Mokula is little?
Who is Mokula in the end?
National chairperson. Name of sick.
Give me a break. What do you know about Ugandan politics? I've been here. I'm a US50, my dear. Let me tell you. The point is, in fact, he should be using that very power to deal with corruption decisively.
Yes.
Deal with it decisively, and it doesn't mean going to arrest Bishop Jack and Leonard in the streets. You know,
leaflets are interesting to do.
Leaflets about corruption, about fighting corruption.
Overthrow the government, that's dangerous.
Well, fighting corruption, about overthrowing government, then the government must be very corrupt. If it is about fighting corruption.
You know, I just wanted to say something to, sorry.
Yes,
I wanted to make a rejoinder to what Kintu Nyago said, His Excellency.
Yes.
You know, they keep, whenever we raise issues of a constitutional amendment, they tell us how things are happening in America. And I've had many people say, but the President of America appoints the Chief Justice. And I want us to localize and domesticate our issues. If the appointment of the Chief Justice and the Inspector General of Police and the Electoral Commission URA is abused in Uganda, we must localize our issues and find local solutions. If it is not, if abuse of that appointment function is not an issue in America, you don't tell us America. We must Ugandanize our problems and find Ugandan solutions like Kenya has done. In Kenya, they have Kenyanized their problems. So Kenya, the president does not appoint the Chief Justice, also, although America, they do. In Kenya, the president does not appoint the Inspector General of Police because the problem in Kenya are not the same as the problems in the US. So we must learn to localize and domesticate our issues and find solutions. And Kenya is far ahead.
Not at all. Not at all.
You don't think Kenya is far ahead of us? The economy almost doubles our
Are we talking about, look, Kenya in 1986 had an economy which was about 20 times bigger than Uganda's. The last time I checked, they are about 4 or 3 times bigger than ours. I think that's about double.
But that's not,
that's a big achievement.
There was no economy in 1985.
I think we lose where we are. We are actually about fighting corruption. And the point here is we need more action and more serious action about fighting corruption. You're not going to keep blaming institutions, bail and whatever. Deal with it. 600 billion.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Our number 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you're calling, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Spectrum, hello? 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 Okay. Hello? Yes, good evening. Good evening, Edmond. Yes, Moses.
Me, I have problem with the Ugandan politicians. I think they want to give reference on the USA. When you are on the government side, you give a reference of the USA. Then they tell you now we should localize. Why? If you are always giving us a reference of the USA, and this is a broke country, you accept even give those people in power to give you the same reference. First of all, you know, people, they always feel that by the fact remain in Kenya, it is worse than Uganda. The environment in Kenya itself, socially, economically, it is not the same as the one in Uganda. Here in Uganda, even if you wait the Islam don't come back here, it is very easy for a person to get a meal of 4,000 things. But in Kenya, to get money, which makes you then carry or shillings, so 4,000, it is not easy. And to get a good meal, like what we get in Uganda, it is not there. So, if we are localized, you also are localizing that. So, what we are saying, we should be objective. If someone gives their reference of USA, accept it. And we accept that you do. Thank you.
Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay, there seems to be an issue with the lines on and off. Spectrum, hello? Okay. Yeah, on and off. Let's continue to discuss in the...
Okay, yeah.
You okay, we have another call. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay. That's yes, your name?
Good evening, Spectrum. This is Richard.
Yes, Richard.
My question to the gentleman from the anti-corruption crusade. But as much as I don't like corruption in this country, everyone is fed up of it. But one other thought in my heart is, whoever is funding these people is doing it out of the interest of a local Ugandan, or just wants a change in government, at which this guy starts again plundering the country because he funded them. So I'm keen more on whoever is funding them, what are their interests.
Spectrum, hello?
Hello.
Yes, your name? Moses in Luwara, yes? Good evening. You're welcome to Spectrum.
Yeah, but I want to tell you, you have you make better. But when you do it better, why we don't come? Let us also come and do something.
Spectrum, hello? Okay. Let's go back to Mr. Leonard Okello. Yes, there's a problem to those lines. Talk to us now. Spectrum, hello? Good evening, your name? Please switch off your line. Please switch off your radio and then talk to us. Hello? Yes, sir, your name?
Bob in Tinder.
Hope, yes? Bob in Tinder.
And my comment is,
Yes?
one, the secretary in Uganda is a little more difficult to mobilize than in Kenya. They tend to put their heads in the sand and pretend not to appreciate the problem that they themselves need to solve. And that's a problem that we as Ugandans have to wake up and overcome our own problems.
All right.
Number two,
Yes.
it is quite clear that our competition has so many people.
people like Mr. Kintu Nyago. Let's get back to the studio. Ms. Leonard, okay, speaking about Sisika government.
I just want to a gentleman that called me to please exactly funding NGOs that have not been talking about corruption. I think people need to understand that one. Is it from a common good? Yes, because things that we're talking about are things that are affecting the ordinary Uganda. We're talking about service delivery in all sectors. And the gentleman should also know that the one that are funding accountability agencies in government. They're funding the IGG, they're funding the Auditor General, and where are they doing it? Are they doing it because they want the government to get home? No. So as civil society, we are funding, but we're getting money from government. But the same fact that you go back and look at the Constitution. We derive our mandate from the Constitution, and the things that we do more than are to supplement or complement what the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Sisika, from the anti-corruption coalition. Honorable Bettie, Kamya.
Maybe at some point we're the coalition, but I'd like really Leonard, while I support their efforts, I'd like them to explain to us what they are preparing Ugandans to do, what they would like Ugandans to do.
All right. Is he interested in black? Go on.
After this awareness, because he keeps referring to government, and you're saying government has failed. So if government has failed, what are you preparing Ugandans to do? And the earlier you start telling them, the better. I would like to know that.
Leonard,
and then
talk to us.
Okay, thank you very much. First, somebody said, who is funding Black Money movement? You know what? NGOs is in this country. Everybody who has worked with NGO or in the streets out there know who fund NGOs. They are either citizens or like ActionAid, Oxfam. They are funded by ordinary citizens who contribute their money monthly. You can do it here in this country. ActionAid gets money from some people here locally every month, even here, abroad and here. Secondly, a lot of other funding comes from government aid agencies. Okay? Now, you say it is funding projects, where NGOs are implementing. Even the accountability and these other accountability projects are funded by them. But the point is,
and the government.
These are funded. These same offices that fund these NGOs mobilizing are the same people funding the anti-corruption agencies in government.
Oh, really?
Secondly, for a government which is borrowed billions of dollars and got so much donor money over the last 20, 30 years, 25 years or so, surely you should not be surprised. And thirdly, all the money that come into this country, nobody simply walks to ActionAid or anti-corruption coalition and signs a secret agreement with them. All these funding agencies actually go through the embassies, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they go into negotiation, Prime Minister's office, and sign agreements with our government before they start giving money to NGOs. That's how it works. That's how the PRDP money.
Yeah, but I think behind that, they want to know who's in.
From the explanation of my brother Leonard, that shows you how enabling the current government has been in their efforts.
Right.
Because it's government that even consents on their funding. So it shows you that the effort.
I like to hear that.
It shows you that clearly, it shows you that the effort they are undertaking to fight corruption has the blessing of government. The same, and that's the argument I've been pressing forward.
Somebody said that says we should borrow from the U.S. the issue of the two terms. What's your view there?
To begin with, Moses, I never praised the U.S. The U.S. I was just saying that there was nothing. We are not recreating the will in our constitution. That's no practice where there's executive power to appoint many of those people. Regarding the issue of term limits, look, Ugandans decided, and Moses should be a Democrat through their parliament. And that's what my sister has been talking about, Bettie, President General, localizing. What was localized in Uganda was the absence of term limits. We're not even mimic Americans, no?
Right. Not even the East African community.
Something. My brother, he says here that.
I said that and you said it.
He says that your government is very much supporting. That's what they've signed agreement with them. So good. The same government, when you go to distribute black money documents, and the same government arresting you, locking you up, and the boys who came with the nobody broke the law. Distributing these things is not breaking the law. Today we're putting in the staff and lock them up for distributing black money today. Precisely. Which law did we break? No, that's why the are arrested and released without a charge. What breaking the law is that?
No, I think you understand the dynamic.
To mobilize. They put their head in the sun like an ostrich. It's better that the ostrich never does that, but we blame the ostrich for putting its head in the sun.
I think you guys have reached the edge. And I've always said that Ugandans have not reached a certain
tipping point.
Because if they did, then you would not have to whip them or mobilize them or tell them what to do. They would do it anyway because they've reached the tipping edge. So somehow I always feel that Ugandans haven't actually reached that point of no return where you do a desperate thing because you have nothing else to do. You have nothing else to do. That's what I think. But of course also the character of Ugandans, they are very complacent people, and people who are satisfied with the, unfortunately, with the
security,
mediocrity.
Not at all.
Ugandans, when I look at Ugandans, for instance, and in an election, especially here in Uganda, people can just elect somebody because he's seen to love the Kabaka more than
it happens everywhere. In America, John Kennedy was elected to a great extent by housewives because of his good looks and youth. Oh yes.
How he combed his back bush.
Possibly that. But I mean, he had good looks and he had a good presentation. Unlike Mr. Nixon, who looked pale and so forth. Now, apart from that,
housewives.
Ugandans are very dynamic, but because things are working, because government is trying its best, that's why there is no tipping point. Because there is flexibility, there is mobility, there is something occurring, there is dynamism. The IGG is functional. The press, like for example, we are on Radio 1. The government is not black mandate to the point that really Ugandans cannot have a tipping point.
Black Monday.
There's a lot more mobilization we're doing. Just also maybe I can use it to answer what my sister
very briefly.
This is a mobilization phase. The next is to actually educate Uganda. What do you do to stop corruption? Well, we want to understand the impact. The next stage is what is your role as a citizen to deal with these things which is got such a bad impact on you.
The tipping point issue. Well, thank you very much, Honorable Bettie, Kamya, President of the Uganda Federal Alliance. Thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight, Madam. Mr. Leonard, Okello, Executive Director of the Uhuru Institute, also Black Monday Crusader, and Mr. Chinongo, Deputy Head of the Uganda Mission in New York. Thank you, for Your Excellency, for coming tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. This is Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
Everything in life has to be worked for. Success, happiness.